Linda, I am deathly afraid that I might be jinxing it.
Oh, no.
Well, let's talk about the Saints' explosive offense so far this season under the new coordinator, Clint Kubiak. They've scored 91 points, tied for the fourth most through 2 games in NFL history. They've had 14 drives started in the first 3 quarters of the season. They've scored on all 14, 10 touchdowns, 4 field goals. They've scored on all 15 offensive drives Derek Carr has played this season. That's the longest streak by any quarterback at any point in a season since at least 1978.
Whoa.
Play action's been working. They've changed their approach. The Saints utilized play action at the lowest rate in the NFL last season, just 13% of their dropbacks. They've used it 51% of the time to start this season, 65% Sunday in Dallas. Derek Carr threw for a career-high 205 yards off play action against the Cowboys, including both of his touchdowns. And how about Alvin Kamara? He's in his prime, averaged 4.2 yards per rush before contact Sunday, averaging 3.9 yards per rush before contact last week, his top 2 averages over the last 4 seasons. Kamara leads the NFL with 5 touchdowns. No other player has more than 3. Nick Sirianni understands the challenge for the Eagles Sunday in New Orleans.
They've been explosive. They got good playmakers. Derek's playing really good. And, again, a lot of respect for this offense and what they've done and, these last 2 weeks. And so it's definitely going to be a challenge.
Odds makers are taking notice.
Yep.
Entering the Week 1 matchup, New Orleans was plus 400 to win their division. But after scoring 91 points in 2 games, those odds now sit at plus 150. Similarly, Derek Carr has seen his MVP odds skyrocket from 150 to 1 all the way down to 35 to 1.
Around the football team. It's not a must-win in regards to, oh my gosh, if they win it, the chances of them making the playoffs or whatnot. But there's noise around this football team and how that game ended and the locker room and really like their belief in their coach, no matter what is said publicly, okay? They got to go find a way to win this football game. I think it's a huge challenge for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think no matter, we could point to Saquon Barkley, the decision to throw the ball on 3rd down and then to kick the field goal on 4th down rather than go for it on 4th down and try to end the football game is the one that I disagree with. They have the worst run defense in football, okay? It's the worst run defense in football. We watched last week Atlanta go for $150 plus. Bijan, I think, had like $120 on the ground plus. They're going to see the same type of run game this week against the New Orleans Saints. And probably just as good as an offensive line in New Orleans. Probably a little bit nastier. And Alvin Kamara is as dynamic as Bijan when it comes to running this football. Their defense is the biggest question mark going into this game right now. They have to find a way for their front 7 to play much better or they're going to lose this game. And it's going to be a similar type of run performance from the New Orleans Saints.
I think what we're seeing is that the defensive issues last year weren't just about coaching, they were personnel related, and they do not appear to be fixed. This defense cannot stop the run, they miss tackles, they also can't get pressure, and that's actually gotten worse from last season. My feeling about this game and whether it's must win, look, the NFC East, you probably don't need to win, 11 plus games to win, so it's not out of the question even if they drop to 1-3. But it can't look as bad as I fear it will on defense. This Saints offense, everything they do, that physical run game with the fullback on the field, the play action pass built on top of that, it's such a mismatch for what we have seen from this version of the Philadelphia Eagles. If they get blown out on that side of the ball, maybe they're not out of the race in the NFC East, but it's going to feel like they're not a true threat. They have to improve on defense very quickly.
Let me say this to y'all. I totally agree with you about Nick Sirianni because the city lost faith in him. You're listening to somebody right now that worked in Philadelphia for 17 years. As a reporter, as a beat writer, ultimately as a columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer. I know this city like the back of my hand, and I'm telling you, the noise that's going to elevate in Nick Sirianni's direction, if they go out there and they look bad this weekend, is going to be very palpable. It's going to be something that he cannot ignore and the city can't ignore. Jeffrey Lurie is not going to ignore it. Howie Roseman is not going to ignore it. But here's where it also gets dicey. Jalen Hurts. He is the guy that signed for 5 years and $255 million. He is the guy that got $110 million guaranteed. Folks are looking at him and they're like, what's up? What you going to do? By the way, the first dude with a no-trade clause in the franchise's history. Let's not forget that as well. I'm saying, where's that dude at? Yes, we lost both coordinators, okay? And Nick Sirianni, you had to hold it down yourself, basically, because you had a new staff last year. Well, what's your excuse this year? Kellen Moore is new. I get all of that, but he was one of the elite offensive coordinators. The Dallas Cowboys had the second-ranked offense in the 4 years that he was there before he departed from Dallas for the Chargers. And so now he's back in the NFC East, familiar territory with the Philadelphia Eagles. Why are we struggling to score points against the Atlanta Falcons? We going to struggle to score points against the Saints? Well, what the hell we going to do when we go up against Dallas? We going to have problems then? Yeah. These are the kind of questions they're going to ask, and they got to damn well make sure they answer them, because if they don't, heads eventually will roll. We've seen the Eagles do this before, and by the way, when heads roll, it's usually for the right reasons. They usually know what they're doing. Example, Chip Kelly.
They ran it well. Stephen, Philly ran it well. Mina, J-Mac, you know this. My biggest concern
Sunday. Ryan Clark, I'll start with you. I'm going to go with Brock Purdy, and not because we don't know enough about Brock Purdy, but here's the time that he can show he can step up for his team when he doesn't have the perfect situation around him. No Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel banged up, George Kittle missing practice yesterday. This will be his chance against the Rams to show that he doesn't need everyone around him to lift him up, that he can lift up the people that need him most.
Yeah, that team has been decimated here early. Mike T, who needs a statement?
Derrick Henry, early and often. Last week, Reed, he had 79 of his 84 yards in the second half. Dallas gives up the most rushing touchdowns, 5. Get Lamar Jackson under center. They've only been under center about 18% of the time. Get under center, give Derrick Henry the ball in the first half, and exploit this porous Dallas run defense. That's how Baltimore has a chance to get back on track.
We're going to dive deep on that game in just a few minutes here. Graz, who needs to make a statement Sunday?
Jared Goff. The Lions are believed to be a Super Bowl contender. They're 1-1. Jared Goff hasn't played well. He's 25th in the league in QBR, just behind Justin Fields and Daniel Jones. Jared Goff has to be better than that if the Lions are going to be as good as they want to be. This is an Arizona defense that can be had. He needs a big game this week.
That's a good stat. Bart, who needs to make a statement this Sunday?
Well, Greeny, attitude reflects leadership, and the unquestioned leader on the Philadelphia Eagles team now is Jalen Hurts. I'm not blaming him for last week's loss, but he has to be the difference in games where the other quarterback on the sideline is ranked probably lower than you and Derek Carr. He's going to have to be the difference. No Jason Kelsey, no Fletcher Cox. He has to make sure that he can lead them and navigate them through tough waters, unlike last year when they collapsed.
Well, so let's dive into that. And we started it earlier in the show this morning, and we ran out of time. So now we have a moment to get into it. RC, you were there on Monday night for what was a horrible loss. And that's a terrible game to lose if you're the Eagles. Yeah. And the time for talking about whether they made the right play call, wrong play call, that's all over with. Here's what I do know. As at RC, we all spent all offseason talking about how will the Eagles handle adversity. With all the stuff that happened to them in the second half of last season, how will they well, they've hit adversity. So what is your sense of how they get through it? What is your sense of what is at stake for them this week?
And not only have they hit adversity, they're playing a team that seems to understand their identity more than any other team in the entire NFL right now in the New Orleans Saints. I think this is going to be a gut check week for the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you show up to the stadium? What sort of energy and attitude does this team have? And if they do get down, if they give up a big play on defense, who will be that guy now that Fletcher Cox is going to step up and make a play? Will Bryce Huff finally have a showing in this game? Is C.J. Gardner-Johnson going to be that emotional leader on the back end? And can Jalen Hurts elevate this offense enough that if he's not getting what he needs from his defense, they can still find a way to win? This won't make or break the Philadelphia Eagles season if they go out and approach it the right way. But that remains to be seen, because what we saw after that 10-1 start last year was absolutely unacceptable.
There have been a lot of questions about leadership there, right? Jalen Hurts taking sort of control. Questions about the head coach and all of that in the wake of last year's collapse. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's what I was trying to allude to earlier. You talk about losing those leadership, so now you're the guy that people come to and lean to when things get tough. And Jalen Hurts has to make sure that he's able to elevate and be a force multiplier with the people around him, because I don't know how much these guys believe in what they're being told from an offensive and defensive side of the football. They're learning two systems. So now you got to have somebody that can keep everybody together. He has to be the voice, but he has to continue to do it with his play, but he has to be able to inspire guys as well.
Bart, I got to push back on that. They're a Saquon Barkley drop away from being 2-0 with 2 new coordinators. That's good coaching.
But we're here already. But what I'm saying is now they face another team that maybe you can get 2 losses. No matter how you got there, you can get 2 losses back to back. And we saw this team not handle adversity well last year. You talked about the relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. We got to keep everybody pulling the rope the same direction because we know what happens. You can have fractured locker rooms and people start talking, and that seems to be what happened last year when they fell apart.
I really think the problem's on the other side of the ball.
It is.
It's a team that
he's responsible for that too.
No, absolutely. But you bring in Vic Fangio, make him one of the highest paid defensive coordinators, has all this experience. Like, that's to me where the conversation should be. What Jalen Hurts is doing, again, they did everything within reason to win that game, and then Atlanta goes down in 5 plays, 90 yards to win it. Like, that to me is where the problem is.
And by the way, Dan, against a struggling defense like the Eagles have, you saw up close and personal what that Saints offense might just do.
That's the thing. Like, I don't think the fact that the Eagles are 1-1 or suffered a tough loss is because of some systemic problem in their locker room, right? Like, I think their locker room's okay. Most teams are kind of like the Eagles right now, right? They're still kind of feeling their way into the season, figuring out what they want to. I mean, you know, ineligible man downfield penalties. I mean, stuff they need to clean up and likely will. Unfortunately for the Eagles, they have to go on the road and play one of the teams that is humming, like is already in midseason form, not dipping its toe into the season. Like the Saints are locked in right now. So I think the Eagles could lose this game. Absolutely. I don't think the important thing for the Eagles is whether they win or lose. I think it's how they look and how they feel. I mean, RC was absolutely right. Like, what are they like getting off the bus? Like, how prepared are they for the game? They could play great and get beaten on Sunday.
Let's put the picks up on the screen so we see what everybody thinks. Will they find a way to bounce back? That is a clean sweep saying no. RC, quickly, why do you like New Orleans?
The Saints are just so dang good. When you watch the way Clint Kubiak has this offense humming, it is like it's almost like watching 2 different offenses based on what they want to do to you. If they want to come out and punch you in the mouth and hand the ball to Alvin Kamara, they can dominate you physically at the line of scrimmage. If they want to push the football down the football field, they can max protect Derek Carr, and he has an arm and there's a freaking track meet on the outside with Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. I love everything about this team, and not to mention, they've always been championship caliber on defense since DeMario Davis has been there. But right now, they run and they hit and they cover like nobody's business defensively. And it's being fed by an offense that can put the other team behind on the score.
NBA star mocks Sheryl Swoop's comments on Caitlyn Clark. New Orleans Pelicans guard DeJounte Murray couldn't resist poking fun at the notion that Indiana Fever star Caitlyn Clark isn't dominating. For anyone questioning whether Clark had an outstanding rookie season in the WNBA, they need only look at the record she shattered. Murray, clearly amused by this debate, had something to say about it. The 2022 NBA All-Star left a comment on a Bleacher Report Instagram post that listed many of the records Clark broke this season. Murray wrote, "She's not dominating," followed by a string of laughing emojis. This was a direct jab at recent remarks made by women's basketball legend Sheryl Swoops on Gil's Arena. Swoops had bluntly refused to call Clark's rookie season dominant, marking the latest instance in what seems to be a pattern of downplaying Clark's achievements. However, most of us who have seen Clark in action know how dynamic she is on the court. The record books paint an even clearer picture, with Clark breaking nearly every rookie record imaginable. But her accomplishments didn't stop there. She also set the record for the most assists in a single WNBA season, regardless of position, and scored more points than any point guard before her. Her combined averages of points and assists have never been matched, making Clark responsible for more total points than any other player. That's what real dominance looks like, which is why Murray's playful comment hit the mark. It's becoming increasingly apparent that Swoops may never give Clark the credit she deserves, leading to some lighthearted mocking along the way. Regardless, Caitlyn Clark's dominance is undeniable, and for anyone still in doubt, the record books speak for themselves.